Okay, so somewhere in here I've got a page with notes for how I go about generating my dungeons and adventures. There is a bit of a... Oh, here we go. Quest creation. There is a bit of a campaign that I follow. But... and you're not going to be able to read this very well, sorry. Let me do this. My chicken scratch is bad enough. You don't need to read it like a Star Wars opening crawl. Roll on the following tables, and these specifically are tables from the 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide. So let's see. Roll on the following tables and create a scenario that incorporates all the results. So I have these sentences that I've started. It is, and then I roll on the framing events table, which is the DMG Dungeon Master's Guide, page 79. You are at the, it's on the same page. I rolled D6 and I select a city location. Then when you are approached by, and then I roll on the adventure patron table of the Dungeon Master's Guide, or the adventure allies table, and then who tells you about, and then I roll on the adventure villains table. In light of this, you are asked to, and then I roll on the dungeon goals table, the wilderness goals table, or the other goals table, using a D3 to determine which table to roll on, or a D6, you know. You are motivated. This I don't necessarily feel like I need to roll on this for, because sometimes the motivation seems obvious based on what I've generated up to that point. You are motivated to explore this situation because, and then roll on the adventure intro table. And then finally, you may stockpile all XP rolls to pursue an alternate goal, keeping the treasure you're supposed to recover for someone else. Interesting. I'm not sure what that note was in light of. Pursue an alternate goal, keeping the treasure you're supposed to recover for someone else. Oh, like if you have... Okay. Yeah, that has something to do with if I choose to, like, break away from what the quest giver actually wants me to do. Yeah. Keeping the treasure you're supposed to recover. Yeah, I'm still not sure what I meant by stockpile. I'll have to think about that. When I'm streaming and trying to multitask so much, I can't retrieve those memories. So, okay, let me get out my my next piece of graph paper that I'll use, because I use the same sheet of paper to also kind of write out the whatever the story is. Let's see. Oh, I gotta make my notes on here to where my lines start getting drawn at. There and there and there and there. Okay. Just drawing some quick borders for my map for the next dungeon. And I do find there's something kind of, I think on maybe nights where I'm just a little video gamed out, which doesn't happen often. I do largely prefer video games. But when I'm feeling video gamed out, or maybe just kind of overstimulated, then it can be nice to do something that's more tactile, rolling dice, moving miniatures, and it's just more quiet. And it's a little bit more in my mind, or just kind of less busy in terms of the stimulation. Then playing this game, drawing out the map as it is generated, there is, as others have said about it, this relaxing quality to it. This nice, cozy, quiet, relaxing quality that I like. Not all the time. Again, not near as much as when I'm playing video games, but I do enjoy it. Okay. So now this this map will go in my binder as part of my dungeon records of my various adventures, which I do like to have and look back on and be reminded of the different things that I experienced. And we're starting up a fresh one now. So let me get that Dungeon Master's Guide, and we'll start generating something to do here. Let's see, that's the Monster Man. Oh, here's the guide. Okay, so page 79. And I thought this would be worth sharing because I figure 5th edition D&D is among the most common rule books that other gamers might have. But this is the framing events table that I'm going to be rolling on here. I won't show all these results. I'm going to try and actually roll through these pretty quick and just get them written down. So this table's a D100 table. Let's see what the setting is for our next adventure. 67. It's the new year. Okay, so where's my pencil? All right. So this is Dungeon 9, I think. Dungeon number 9. I'll work out a story or a title in a second here. It is how appropriate playing here now as I am February 2nd, not too long after the New Year. It is the New Year, I'll say the New Year Festival. It is the New Year Festival. And you are at the, let's see, D6 for a city location. And this actually isn't in the guide, it's D6. So there's 5 locations only. I'll roll again if I roll a 6. But it looks like I'm at the blacksmith. It is the New Year Festival, and you are at the blacksmith. When you are approached by, let's see, is this going to be the patron table or the adventure allies table? Let's do a 50-50 roll. We will roll on the adventure patrons table on page 74. And that is that's a D20 roll. Oh, okay, a retired adventurer. So you are at the blacksmith, and a retired adventurer approaches you. And tells you about what? Page 74, Adventure Villains. That's a D20 roll. An aberration bent on corruption or domination. Okay. Well, let's pick up the thread from Zictool. An aberration bent on corruption, or well, in this case, it would probably be some kind of corruption. If we're going to keep going with this Zictool thing, and I do like that, I do want to lean into that Caverns of Chaos, whatever that supplement is. So yeah, he tells you, approaches you and tells of, do we want to just start looking at our boss monsters and see if there's something weirdly appropriate? Let's start looking. Okay. So boss monsters, I've got a decent number of them. What would be some kind of a aberration, something that that would... I'm having trouble seeing myself here. Something that would have a little bit of a Lovecraftian vibe. Probably not a mummy. This is a vampire lady or something. I fought an Oblivion Lich already, and that's undead. I don't really think of Lovecraftian type stuff in that case. Let's see. Lots of traditional orcs and goblin type stuff going on here. I don't know, I might not have something. I might have to look at like my weird monsters or something. Thunderstorm Dragon, Lizard Man Knight, and the Mad Alchemist. Yeah, let's look at our weird monsters. And maybe I could just beef one of them up a little bit. Actually, you know what? I'm probably not gonna... Well, no, never mind. There's a cool supplement I got with a bunch of monsters in it, but I don't have, like, cards for them. They have some nice art on the inside. Here, I'll show you what I'm talking about, just so you can see the supplement. If I can dig it up here somewhere. It's Twisted Final Fights, I think. Here we go. And this one was very Lovecraftian looking. I actually had originally planned to make it my final boss for this adventure, but this is the Watcher in Darkness, and I'm like, oh yeah, I am all over that monster design. Holy crap, that's for me. But I didn't really have like a way to kind of make a card for it, and wasn't sure about the legality of that, and just had questions and no time to sort through those questions. So anyway, let's keep looking through the weird monsters. And again, as I said the other day, I've got a lot more options, a lot more monster stats that I'm content to have without these cards. But these are officially licensed cards for the game. So when I'm streaming, I'm kind of limited a bit. So let's see, a Skeletal Knight, nah, Eldritch Ghost, Savage Werewolf, maybe a Chimera. That's a possibility, I guess. Giant Spider, Mist Dragon, Green Harpy, Lady of the Halo, Champion of Zur. Champion of Zur. This guy's undead. I don't know who Zur is, but maybe he's like a lieutenant of Ziktul or something like that. I don't know. I think I'm going to go with this Chimera. Yeah. That's weird, and I can beef him up maybe just a little bit. Maybe add +1 to his level as a final boss. So, we will do that. So let's see. Tales of... we'll say an otherworldly Chimera corrupting the land nearby. Okay, so what's the next thing we need to generate? In light of this, you are asked to, and then there are 3 different tables I could end up rolling on. So I'm going to roll on the Dungeon Goals table on page 73. And that's a D20 roll. 10. Oh, interesting. Find an NPC who disappeared in the area. So maybe it's not my quest to actually kill this thing, but to find a priest who's been studying this phenomenon. In fact, I could just ditch the Chimera concept Um, let's just say otherworldly creature instead. So there's this otherworldly creature that's corrupting the land nearby. The priest of a local monastery who has studied this phenomenon has gone missing. Right? You are motivated to explore this situation because... let's see if I like the motivation. We'll roll on the adventure intro table on page 74. And that's a D12 roll. Let's see. It says while traveling on a road, the characters are attacked by monsters that flee into the nearby adventure location. That's not really going to do it. I think that the corruption is... I mean, this is a local thing going on. This is land nearby. We're an adventuring guild. We're mercenaries. Now, what's the connection with this? The fact that it's a retired adventurer. Well, maybe there was a local lord who is basically on the fringe of where this corruption is spreading to, and so his lands are the first ones being affected. And this adventurer was like his go-to guy for years. This retired adventurer was his go-to guy. But he's past his prime, doesn't feel like he's able to take this on. And so basically, he passes on the gig to you. Refers... and has you go and visit the Lord who's interested. And... the Lord maybe is like, I'm not going to remember most of this. I just need the basics here, but I'm trying to tie it together. Let's see. Not even seeing where I'm scrawling up there at the top. All right, there's the Star Wars crawl version of it. Roleplay Cafe suggests a gargoyle. Maybe, I do like gargoyles. That feels a little closer to the creation of a wizard, a more traditional wizard, whereas this, I'm kind of feeling more of that Lovecraftian vibe that I want to keep going with. So something a little more bizarre would be nice. But it may not even be the case that... I mean, there may not even be a named boss going into whatever this dungeon is going to be. Anyway, since he is the key to defending against the encroaching corruption, the retired adventurer, I think I put an extra E on the end there, adventurer comes representing a local lord to hire you to bring the priest, safely home, or recover his research. I am putting a plan B in there because I hate protection escort quests where you have to worry about keeping somebody alive other than yourself. Hate that in video games. I've rarely encountered it in tabletop games, and I'm glad for that. So, I don't know. I'm thinking we're probably going to find this priest dead. That's probably just what I'm going to decide. But now, where would the priest be? I don't know if I'll roll for this or not, but I did start creating a table of my own to kind of make it, to give me something to roll on to select different types of environments that my adventure could take place in. I found that in addition to, here we go, I found that in addition to having some way to randomly generate story, having a way also to generate different locations that dungeon crawl type things typically take place in helps me as I choose what monsters are going to be in the dungeon. And that's relevant to me because, again, even though the game is designed to use tables, pre-created tables that you roll on, I don't like the constrictions of that. I like to have a large pool of monsters and not have like the small pool pre-chosen for me, but instead to, you know, that's why I like to use a deck system. And let's see here. So dungeon types and themes. I'm working on this being a D20 list. I've only got 16 right now. But it could be an ancient crypt, a bandit lair, a sealed prison, with a note that says magic-oriented humanoids. You can't escape until the final boss is killed. I kind of like that idea. You know, it's a magically or ritually sealed prison of some kind, and you yourself become a part of it until you kill the final boss. Then the seal's broken and you can get out. Cultic temple, villainous maze, with a note that says use Twisted Dungeons number 23. That's a supplement and a kind of a rule scenario for that. Populate with Minotaur and non-humanoid enemies. Okay. Orc Lair, Cursed Forest, Frontier Cavern, which means it's mostly going to be animals and creatures as opposed to humanoid stuff. Otherworldly Depths, which is just going to be as bizarre and Lovecraftian as I can find in my monsters. A Dragon's Lair, a Lich's Tomb, a Wizard's Laboratory, a Sewer, a Hidden Fortress, an Ancient Temple, and Frozen Caverns. Use monsters with thick fur, humanoids with thick clothes or that are immune to cold, and use Twisted Dungeons number 76. So looking at all of those, I don't think I want to roll for this. I want to dream up something a little bit here. Unless I take too long dreaming. Where would this priest end up? He was studying, I mean, like an ancient temple makes sense. I was already kind of just in these ritualistic caverns, so I don't know if an ancient temple is the way to go. This creature, I mean, Otherworldly Depths, that's kind of nondescript, and that's mostly going to depend on monsters that I don't have cards for right now, so I wouldn't want to go that route. I want to go with something that's going to be work with the fairly traditional monsters that I've visual aids for. Maybe maybe he's just out in the wilderness. Maybe he was tracking this thing, and he was just out in the wilderness, like in a frontier area somewhere. So maybe we'll do the Frontier Cavern, where he was tracking this thing and resting, and that was the last he was seen. So maybe we'll come upon him in the middle of a fight with a big boss, or maybe we'll find his corpse. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, I think I like the Frontier Cavern idea. So let's just make a note. He was last seen tracking the creature near the frontier. And we'll just make a somewhat arbitrary reward. We'll say, I don't know, 200 gold and 1 spell scroll of my choice. Yeah, that sounds good. Especially the spell scroll of my choice. In addition to any treasure I find from the last boss or whatever, you know. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. That I'll find. Let's see. I mean, I should make a note too. Let's see. Priest is. It doesn't always have to be a final boss, but that is typically what I like. That's just the meat and potatoes dungeon crawl experience for me. Fight lesser monsters, explore things, find treasure, and defeat the big bad at the end and get extra cool treasure. Rinse and repeat. That's what I want in life from dungeon crawls. Priest is found with final boss. Okay, cool. So now, based on this theme, let's see. What should we call this quest? Just the lost priest. Or the missing priest. That sounds good. Yep. The missing priest. That was an interesting kind of turn that it took. I mean, as I was... So let me read the whole thing again here. Because it started out making me think that it was going to be just kind of a traditional... heard about this big monster. Can you go kill it? But it's really not quite that. It's the New Year festival, and you are at the blacksmith, and a retired adventurer approaches you and tells of an otherworldly creature corrupting land nearby. But, you know, this thing apparently is not the concern. It's so much of a problem, you can't really take it on yet. We need to figure out how to take it on, right? The priest of a local monastery who has studied this phenomenon has gone missing. Since he is the key to defending against the encroaching corruption, the retired adventurer comes representing a local lord to hire you to bring the priest safely home or recover his research. And that's where the scroll is kind of coming from, is like, you know, maybe, you know, I don't know. He was last seen tracking the creature near the frontier. So probably the way this is going to end is he's going to be dead. I won't be able to recover his research, or maybe I'll recover a little bit of his research, but it's nothing I'll be able to take advantage of. I'll just deliver it to the Lord. He'll give me the money and the spell scroll, and I'll go. So that sounds about right to me. Yeah, I'm digging it. Okay, so now we're going to go through and leaving out any cards that I used, or in particular that I fought. I don't have to, just for the sake of monster variety, I'm going to, any cards that were seen in my last dungeon crawl, I'm going to leave out. Let's see, those I didn't see. These I did. Actually, I think I went through most of these cards, most of these decks once. We did see Mist Zombies and that thing and that thing and that thing. We saw the freaking Iron Eater. Saw him plenty. We saw all these minions. So these can be set aside. All right. So now starting with Vermin, I'm going to create a 6 monster deck in each category of monsters. We've got Vermin, or Vermin minions, Minions, Weird monster bosses and boss bosses. Starting with Vermin. So Frontier, we're thinking mostly not humanoid stuff, mostly animals, maybe stuff that's not too crazy weird. Fiendish ferns, that's a possibility. Rats, certainly. There's lots of varieties of rats here. Bone picker rats. Probably not skeletal rats. That feels a little more undead to me. Maybe rain spiders. Maybe... shadow moths are undead. I don't think we need to do anything with that. Vampire frogs. Maybe vampire bats. Definitely dead forest spiders. And bats of vengeance? I don't know what the difference is here. Sounds kind of cool, though. I don't know if I fought bats of vengeance before. So do we have 6 here already? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. Okay. So that's going to be our Vermin deck. Then we'll move on to minions. This will be a little tougher. I think a lot of minions tend to be humanoid. No, I've got some undead stuff here. Maybe some orcs. But they would look. I want to look them I want them to feel kind of like wilderness creatures, like wild, not very organized, like this orc of the red plume, or like this goblin poisoner. Like, no, there's a little too much civilization attached to those roles. Maybe hobgoblins, not skeletons. Oh, trolls, yeah. Kobold spearmen. Horned constrictors. Yeah, that could be, that's a good kind of wild animal type thing. So I've got more than 6 here, I'm pretty sure. So any animals are included first. I think we just have the 1. So then trolls, that feels pretty wild. Kobold spearmen, that feels a little bit too militaristic and organized, so I don't think I want that. Same with orc pikemen, if I can avoid it. Maybe I'm getting rid of too many now. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I need 1 more. So what can I throw back in? I guess, oh, look at that. I didn't see that in there. Goblin. Perfect. So, pretty traditional. Out in the wild. I do have, yeah, it's kind of frustrating. I do have some better options. Maybe I'll consider, you know, if this series in the archived versions gets okay views, maybe I'll consider investing in some more of these official cards, just so I can continue to have some kind of visual element that'll be nice when I stream. But I've got a lot more options that I'd actually much rather use than these, that would be much more fitting to the theme. Okay, so that's Vermin, that's minions. Now moving on to weird monsters. Again, with a wilderness type of theme. Not an eldritch ghost, not this undead stuff. What is this? Lady of the Halo. That sounds kind of spiritual, like angelic or something. Maybe a harpy. Certainly dragons would be fine. Giant spiders, fine. Minotaurs, I mean, I tend to attach them to mazes, of course, but savage werewolf, how many we got here right now? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're gonna have to go outside the theme a little bit, so 5. And I guess of these remaining, if I had to, I'd go with Lady of the Halo. So those are our weird monsters. Actually, you know what? Let's just ditch. I don't need to have a full 6. And I'd rather have it stick a little more closely to the theme. So, gosh, these are weird monsters. I'm less likely to encounter them anyway. So let's just use these 4, and I'll roll a d4 when it's time for generating weird monsters. Cool. All right. So that takes care of that. Oh, hold on. Here's one I didn't use. Here's one I didn't use, the Chimera. And that is certainly beastie enough to go with the others. All right, and then finally, we'll look at our bosses and see if one maybe calls out to me as like a final boss that I want to actually be the selected final boss, or if I'm content to just kind of keep it random. All right, so the Lizard Man Knight, that's a possibility, but I just feel like he's perfect for a sewer. Or do I have a swamp setting? Do I not have a swamp setting? Let me, here, if I don't have a swamp setting in my D20 list of locations, I need to add that. That seems like a missed opportunity. Otherworldly. I don't. Okay, great. 17, I just added one. Yay! Swamp. So for either swamp or sewer, this Lizard Man Knight would be a great option. Not necessarily now, though. Chaos Goblin Shaman, Wall Calling Wraith. I guess I could do a Tiger Chimera, but I don't know if I want to run into two different chimeras. Oh wait, that's a weird monster anyway. What are all these weird monsters? Hold on, I got my cards mixed up. We might have some better options for the weird monster deck. Hold the freaking phone. So these boss. Okay, these are all bosses. I thought I had an unusual number of boss cards. Okay, so let's rethink here if these are all absolutely the best options. So this is a little bit lame. It's basically reusing the same artwork. That was a bummer to discover. It's two different sets that I got these in. One's a Chimera, one's a Tiger Chimera. Anyway, I'm only going to use one. I'll set that aside for now. Invisible Gremlins, no. Black-tailed Manticore, maybe. Catoblepas, did I have that in the last one? No. That looks just weird enough that I'm like, let's save that for a more Lovecraftian type thing. Okay, what do we got here? So Black-tailed Manticore. Is that all of them then? Okay, so I guess I didn't have a ton of great options there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And which one of these do I want to face off against, potentially? A Tiger Chimera or a regular Chimera? I don't know. Let's just do the regular Chimera. We didn't end up facing one last time. So, all right. So yeah, final lineup. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, that'll do. Okay. Now we can get to the boss deck. All right. So yeah, like I said, the Lizard Man Knight, I want to save that for a swamp or a sewer. Done the Mad Alchemist already, and it's not right for the theme. I mean, I guess maybe a dragon could be out in the field. I mean, this is ultimately going to be in a cavern anyway, not out in the open. I mean, you can thematically do a grid map like this and just imagine that all the walls are really dense foliage or something, but I think for the most part, I want my dungeon crawls to be pretty close to literal dungeons, enclosed spaces at least. Medusa, no. Maybe a small dragon. That seems more fitting than the other dragon we saw. Maybe some kind of ogre. Where's the... Do I have any more monster type things? I don't. Okay. So that's alright. Let's see. Ogre might be nice. I don't think an orc warlord fits unless it's in the context of a dungeon that has more orcs or goblins, more humanoid type stuff, because he's a leader. Gosh, not near the options I want right now. Ogre Hunter Gatherer, that seems pretty fitting that he would be out in the wild. So that's 3. And as I've already established, I don't need to have a full 6. So, because you're not going to run into these near as much. Definitely not a mummy or a vampire lady or an oblivion lich. I'm kind of considering these right now. Mountain Goblin Assassin, that sounds too purposeful, you know, and this is just kind of creatures out in the wild. So I'm thinking Orc Brute, he could just be wandering around lost out there. Ogre Smasher could be in a similar situation. This Ogre Hunter Gatherer definitely works really well for my tastes. What I might do is actually just stick with these three, have these maybe as a backup. I'll just kind of put them on their side. In case for some reason I'm encountering a lot of bosses and I want to have some extra variety, then I can dip into the Ogre Smasher and the Orc Brute. But right now I'd kind of like one of these three to be the one that comes up in a regular boss encounter or a final boss encounter. So I'll set those aside. And now we're ready to start a new dungeon. For more chat about geek entertainment, answers to your questions, and news from the wider world of Christian geekery, get the Christian Geek Central podcast today on iTunes and other podcast services.